Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, this material is very easy, so I will go over it very quickly. I don't like to just read the book to you. So, next time the chapter is also very easy, this chapter 4. So, I have already assigned it to the different groups. So, next time you will be making the presentations, I will sit and watch. There is not much point in my reading the book. And actually I will learn something by listening to what you have to say, because I will understand how much you understand. So this time I will do a little bit of spoon feeding. So basically it's about history. One of the major things that, the point that we are trying to make here is that unlike what your economics textbooks tell you, is that there is only one system and it's universally valid and it has always been that way and it will always stay that way. Systems have changed very much in time and they are still evolving. And basically one needs to study the process of social change, not a particular set of laws. So capitalism is continuously evolving. So the learning objective at the beginning of chapter is that the mode of production, how we are producing things, how we are distributing them, it changes over time, and it can be revolutions come in many different kinds of change. So today's mode is just a temporary phase, and tomorrow things might be different, and yesterday they were different. Now money is started some 5,000 years ago, and it's not according to the standard story that is told in economics textbooks that money used for barter and trade. That is the story which is wrong. Actually, money comes into being by governmental authority. However, money has not been an important factor in most societies. Money is used only for transactions which are not of central importance. But so in capitalism, money became very important, and so today we think that money is everything, and without money you can't do anything, and that's true of capitalist societies, but it's not true in non-capitalist societies. Even now in Pakistan, in remote villages, money is not much used. So, what is capitalism? Well, sometimes people call it a market system, but markets exist long time before capitalism. So that's not a good name. However, one important thing is that markets usually were peripheral. They were auxiliary. You would have market once a year or maybe every month. Market was not central. You didn't. If you closed down all the markets, society could still function. In contrast, in capitalism, markets are central. If you shut down all the markets, people would starve. So there is a difference. In capitalism, markets are central. In normal societies, markets exist but are not central, not so important. So another name for this is mixed economy, which means that you have private markets and government. Actually, there are no economies where you only have markets. You have to have government in order to allow markets to exist. So this is not such a good name. Another name which is used is monetary production economy, which is means that the production is done for profits, and that's a name that was given by Marx. But the book says that all of these have defects. Let's just use capitalism. So basically, capitalism characterized by the fact that there are some capitalists. They are the ones who own the means of production, large machines and industries and factories and money. and they are the ones who make the production decisions. There are many types of capitalism and with many different variations in performance. So it wasn't always like this. It started out with tribal societies. They were egalitarian, they were communal, that is, exist as a community. They were not market oriented. Distribution was done by basically consensus. We agree that we will produce something, and there was self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency means no markets. That you don't, or actually markets can exist, but they are not essential. There was the slavery system, which existed in many different societies, where all production is done by slaves. This was unstable because there was always the threat of revolt. There were large numbers of slaves, and they would want to take control because they were being exploited. It was not very productive because all of the surplus was captured by the landowner, so the slaves did not have incentive to produce efficiently, to produce a lot, to work hard. Feudal societies. I have given a detailed explanation of this in another lecture, so I will skip. For reasons, again, these have been explained in my lectures on Polanyi, how the current market society evolved, and it is worth seeing. I mean, there was a natural historical transition. Some social forces were set in motion, and so it was not randomly that first this happened and then this happened, but rather there was a sequence of logical causes due to which one system changed to another. Some of the key elements was that there was a process of enclosures where the rich people just grabbed a lot of land. It was called a revolution of the rich against the poor. The poor had very little to begin with. All they had was access to these rivers where they could fish, and the jungle where they could hunt and break off berries. Even that was taken away from them. That created the labor force. They had nothing but themselves, and they had to sell themselves for money. That created the labor pool for the industries. At the same time, there were some innovations in agricultural revolution that created a surplus of food which could maintain large labor forces. So the market society was driven by the Industrial Revolution, which created large machines which required large numbers of labor forces, and it required money because if you're producing, see, this was the key thing, that for the first time people started producing huge amounts of surplus. So the idea of self-sufficiency was lost. Now if you have surplus, then the idea of self-sufficiency doesn't work. You throw away the surplus. There is no point in producing surplus. So you there are many things that you have to do to create markets. You can go out and conquer the world, break down existing economies, make people dependent, and then you can sell them your goods. So the market society came about by a revolution, not by a evolution. You had to break down existing systems of thought, existing systems of institutions, existing ways of production and distribution, and in order to bring in the market, which was rather alien and hostile. So in the initial phases, this system was extremely cruel and exploitative. The laborers really had a very bad deal, and Marx and Engels thought that just like the slavery system, these people are wage slaves, and they will eventually revolt and overthrow the capitalists. One of the key insights of Marx was this MCM, that the natural way of things, of thought and the natural society, we produce commodities for our own use. Sometimes we can sell them for money, but then the money will be used to produce other kinds of commodities. So the natural organization is CMC prime. You have commodities, you sell some for money, you get more commodities which are perhaps you produce an excess of some type and you trade it for something else. Money is used as. But the capitalist goes the opposite way. The production is done by the capitalists. In the production process, you use money, you pay the laborers, you buy resources, and you produce commodities. But these commodities are not for your use, but they are for sale. So you sell the commodities to get more money. So M is used initially, and then commodities come, then M prime. So the key is that the M prime, the money that you get from the sale, should be greater than the money that you invested. Production is done for profits. So capitalism is continuously expanding. There is a global search for profits. There is a global search for resources which can be exploited. And so one of the keys is that capitalism tries to grab free resources. Resources which are extremely valuable, like forests, animals, land, water, minerals. All of these things, they are actually very precious in the sense that you cannot recreate these things. But for the capitalists, it's just the cost of grabbing things. So, like in Africa, they just grabbed millions of people and exported, and they became commodities. So, now this exploitation keeps increasing until it ends with a crash. Globalization ended with a crash in 1929, and then there was a lot of market regulation which made things much better for 50 years. But then the whole cycle started again, and this time the crash of 2007 did not end financial capitalism. They were well prepared, and they made sure that the system continues. So this is a very bad system. It has had very bad effects. It's on the verge of destroying the planet. Billions of people are hungry, while 50 people have half the wealth on the planet. So there is a lot of expectation that unless we change the system, the whole planet is liable to collapse, and not in not too long a future, because capitalists are exploiting oceans and atmospheres and jungles and everything. Everything is just a way to make money. You have this beautiful rainforest, a gift of God, existed for million years. You cannot recreate it in another million years. For them, it's just lumber to use for making furniture. And if you make $100, oh, you've made a profit. You don't count the millions of dollars of cost that. So there are other systems. There is socialism. The government owns the mean of production. Production is organized around the needs of society. It's not done for profits. Basic needs are provided to everyone at low or free of cost. And the key is that everybody becomes part of the production process, and you are paid according to how much you can produce. As opposed to this, communism is all combined to produce common output. There's no distinction. So there are communes in which all people are combined. So you cannot distinguish who produced what. Everybody is working together, and it's shared according to the needs. So the distinction is that in capitalism you have each according to his ability, where ability means ability to make money, however it may be, to either each according to his production in socialism, or each according to his need in communism. So what would a future system look like after capitalism collapses, unless we are all destroyed in the process? If there is another system, then we don't know. But people have said that socialism and communism, they have been tried and they have failed. But this is not true, in the sense that these were initial experiments. Capitalism itself started very slowly, and it started and stopped many times before it started to get going. And so capitalism itself has only been in existence for a very short amount of time. in terms of historical time. So new models are coming up in many different places, in many different ways, and Islamic economy is definitely an option which would be viable if we can create a working model. There was working models that existed in the past. The whole world is looking for solutions at this time, and it is up to us to provide one. One exists in our past, but Muslims today are not looking at that. They are looking at capitalism and modifying it slightly. That's not a real Islamic system. There are real Islamic systems. The key to a real Islamic system is the waqf, which is everyone who has excess money should give it for the use of society instead of trying to make more and more excess money. And so, if we are all taking care of each other, then I don't need money in my bank, because my bank is all of the other people in the society. If I am sick, other people will take care of me. So for 1,000 years, in the Islamic society, there was no concept of paying for an education, the tuition fees. There was no concept that someone who is sick, he has to find the money in order to get treated. The hospitals actually took care of the patients, whoever came, and they provided money to the families because the working member is no longer there. And they took care not only of the person's physical needs, but they also had attendance for his spiritual needs and for physiotherapy and many other things. So we had a wonderful system, but it has been forgotten and completely destroyed. So the challenge for us is to recreate this system today. And this requires an act of imagination.